Montoya find the missing 10th and a half in a 4.25 mile racetrack? Over the line he goes then. Yes, he does, incredibly.
He could just be Formula One's next superstar. Pole position for the Colombian, Juan Pablo Montoya in the Williams.
You never think about, oh, I'm going to win tomorrow or anything. You just work as hard as you can, and if it comes, it'll be brilliant.
Montoya's driving into a red tide at Hockenheim, the country's sporting hero. Michael Schumacher has massive support going into the German Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to our ITV studio. It is race day. Like many of you back home, we are absolutely steaming here. 28 degrees, a bit overcast. Humidity, though, is through the roof. OK, then 6 races to go now. Michael Schumacher's 4th world title. That'll be confirmed if he wins just 2 of them. David Coulthard starts behind him on the 3rd row. Ralf Schumacher up front with Montoya. Montoya's gone quickest in warm-up. It's an all-Williams front 2, and Hakkinen has qualified 3rd. Meantime, Ferrari steaming towards their 3rd successive Constructors' Crown. Hakkinen in 98, McLaren's only win here in 10 years. Williams, though, in great shape. Both Saubers in the top 10. And Jordan, well, they have been rocked by the sacking of Heinz-Harald Frentzen just before his home Grand Prix. Absolutely delighted to welcome BMW's Gerhard Berger alongside Tony Jardine. Now, Gerhard, your engines, I mean, they're producing at the moment, both on the front row in the Williams. Fantastic.
They're good, huh?
Are they going to last, though? That's the big question. You've got a few breakdowns.
That's even our question.
Yeah.
We don't know, but we're going to see in 2 hours, we're going to know. Well, now we have a great engine performance the whole season already. But I have to say, to get 2 cars in the first row is not just a lot on the engine. We have a fantastic partner with Williams. He did a really great job with the car this year. He's developing consistently. We are improving consistently. Also, Michelin, great first season in and giving us on some circuits tires what are really brilliant. So this weekend everything worked out well and we could transfer it into a good result.
Well, of course, Tony, Michael Schumacher's Ferrari doesn't have Michelin tyres, and he feels that's a big difference here this weekend.
He does feel it's a big difference, but he knows how strong the package is, and he accepts that to a degree. And we might see another conservative race from him, just looking for the points. They had some problems with the wheels locking up, but that was about it, really.
Never made pole at the German Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher, and he never looked like doing it, did he?
No, he didn't.
I think it was 97 or 94, I don't remember anymore. I did the race here, you know, and when you came into the Motordrome, everything was yellow. But I was leading then the race in the Ferrari, and the middle of the race, suddenly the Motordrome was red. They put out the caps, the red caps.
Brilliant. Well, it's all red here this weekend, that's for absolutely sure. But Ralf Schumacher, Michael's younger brother, in your Williams, his best ever qualifying performance here in Hockenheim, superb.
Yeah, well, both drivers basically the same lap time. They are both in great shape. Even this morning in the warm-up, both was pushing and both did the same lap time again. So I think we're going to see an interesting race.
Apart from Silverstone, Ralf has gone very well in qualifying throughout the season, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's very strong this year. He over the winter, he changed a bit. His way of working is great. He used really all the potential of his car and the team. So he's very strong, and he had some great results this year.
And Juan Pablo Montoya, the Colombian, a newcomer in Formula One this season and his first pole, Gerhard.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He's really, he's a very aggressive driver, very, very talented. Not always yet able to use his potential to the optimum, but it's clear. I mean, he just had a half season in Formula One now. But I'm absolutely sure he's going to be one of the guys for the future, and thanks that we have him in the team.
Yeah, at the end of the qualifying session, Luciano Berti made sure that nobody could put in a quick lap, didn't he?
Yeah, the yellow flags came out and spoiled a few. It saved a few tyres for other people, but he has had a few scares this year, including throttles sticking open on that car in Monte Carlo when he went down the escape road. He made a mistake at the Jim Clark chicane, and he was trying to make up for it, but he tried too hard, and that was the result.
OK, Tony, it is race 12 of F1 2001. Take us through the grid.
Well, it's all BMW front row, the first one since '86. This fellow was on the front row alongside Teo Fabi, who was one of his teammates yonks ago. But we're going to see a great battle, hopefully, between these two BMW Williams teammates. We're really looking forward to that. Hakkinen still in the groove after his British Grand Prix win, and Michael Schumacher accepting the situation, but out for points, we feel today. Coulthard missed the Monza test through food poisoning. He's suffering. The car is oversteering. Top top-speed problems, said Barrichello. Now, there's the two Sauber drivers together. Raikkonen had problems getting the car over the curbs, but still done a great job. And De La Rosa ahead of his teammate Irvine. Irvine was expecting 8th, 7th, something like that, but the car is improving nonetheless. The two popular Frenchmen alongside each other are Lazy and Panis. And then Zonta, he didn't do very well. He's down in 15th place alongside his South American teammate Bertie, the one we saw crashing before. And then on the 9th row, the two Benetton drivers sharing the problems together and the row, Button and Fisichella, the two Arrows drivers together, and at the back, Fernando Alonso, now 20 years old, and Tarso Marquez.
Now, Gerhard, what's it like when you're on pole for the first time, if you can remember that far back? Any particular problems does that pose?
Well, especially on Montoya's case, he's very cool. I mean, he's been on several important races already on pole, so it's not really the first time for him. But in Formula One, yes, and of course, it's always a good position to start on pole, and I think you have a good chance to be first in first corner, and then it's already a great advantage to everyone else.
One of his early problems this season, he was trying to over-impress. He told me he felt he was over-driving in those early races.
I think he puts himself a bit too much under pressure. He wants to come into the game and be already in the first race the new superstar. But we all see that he has a great talent, and it's just a question when he's going to be ready to use it the whole time. So he overdriven sometimes the car this year. He did several mistakes, but he still showed a better potential than most of the other drivers I've ever seen before in the game.
He wasn't driving, but he was a passenger in an RAF Tornado recently. I don't know if you know RAF and Marham in Norfolk. Took him up. There he is, Juan Pablo. Went 500 miles an hour, a little round trip for him, and I think he obviously enjoyed the experience. You probably got your own private jet, Gerhard. I don't know if you actually
but
one of those.
Unfortunately, I never had the possibility to try this one, and I'm still looking to be in white ones, because I think it's a great experience.
Well, knowing those fellas at RAF Marham, I think you'll probably get the invite in the post by tomorrow. Let's just have a look at what's going on in
I'm going to inform you.
in the Williams garage over there in your absence, and there we are with what just under or 3/4 of an hour or so to go to the race. Really is great to see Williams back at the sharp end of Formula One after a barren spell that must have seemed like an eternity to them. Don't forget that Ralf Schumacher's won a couple of races at Montreal and at Imola, but here at Hockenheim, Juan Pablo Montoya is the main man.
Formula One's new sensation has finally done it. Montoya's delivered on the potential we saw at the start of the season with his first Formula One pole.
It was a good lap, yeah. I was a bit down in Sector 2. And in the last lap, I got Sector 1 very similar to the first lap, and Sector 2 really pulled it together, and I was very pleased for that.
While their speed is certainly there, Williams need to perfect their strategies. At Magny-Cours and at Silverstone, Juan Pablo's two-stop race was ruined by his teammate, a one-stopping Ralf Schumacher. Ralf couldn't get past Rubens Barrichello, and he refused to let Montoya through to have a go at the Ferrari. This despite the instructions of the team on the pit wall. So why did the strategies go astray?
Well, there's not a lot to explain about. I think you better ask Patrick.
There was a short period out on the track where we felt that Juan's progress was being limited.
And was it recommended to Ralf that he let Juan Pablo through?
A reasonable suggestion was made that he might do so, but he said that he was in good shape and felt he could overpass Rubens anyway, so there's no serious friction about it.
Some positive friction is happening within the Williams Michelin tyres. They prefer higher track temperatures and are working superbly in the Hockenheim heat. Something the team will be concerned about is the reliability of the powerful BMW engine. We always see plenty of blow-ups here, and there will be more this afternoon. So it all comes down to a duel between the drivers of the two fastest cars in Hockenheim. Montoya and Schumacher have made some brilliant starts in recent races, but both will have to avoid any first-lap contact.
Yeah, I mean, if everything works as normal, we should be first and second at the first corner, shouldn't we?
But Tony, he will remember what happened to Michael Schumacher at that first corner here last year.
Yeah, well, Coulthard was on pole position, and Coulthard was determined to block Michael Schumacher, who's alongside him on the front row. You watch the move that Coulthard makes, which diving across just to block him. While he did that, he left that huge gap. Hakkinen went through. Michael then moved across in his one move right into the path of Fisichella. In my opinion, Fisichella had nowhere to go. And Michael, this was one of the third, look at that, straight into Fisichella. Giancarlo nowhere to go. Off they both went. And you can see the view there that Giancarlo had. Straight into the barriers. And that was one of 3 races that Michael didn't finish, letting Hakkinen back into the championship. And we had a great run into the finish there.
What thoughts do you have about your 2 cars at this year's start?
Well, of course, start is always a very critical moment, and I mean, what's happened here between Michael and another team, okay, that's racing accidents, but the dangerous one is always that your 2 cars have had this problem, but we've seen already before too. So, of course, we are sure that we have 2 intelligent drivers to get around the first corner.
But perhaps 2 intelligent drivers who aren't the best of mates.
No, they are not sharing the room yet, but they're talking each other, so it's okay. Yeah. Actually, we are not looking for the 2 best friends in Formula 1. We're looking for the 2 most competitive drivers. And we know from the past, if you remember back, Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet, you know, we know that's sometimes quite fun to watch.
Yeah, but there are a couple of races that Juan Pablo Montoya felt he could have won if Ralph had let him through, and Patrick had sort of stammered a little bit when he was asked about whether orders given.
Well, but the game works in a different way. It's not a game where one says to the other one, come bust me, and go and win the race.
Sure. I mean, Juan Pablo this morning, before warm-up, absolutely super cool, wasn't he? I mean, he was wandering around with his Spanish girlfriend, Connie. Half an hour warm-up, and for 25 minutes... That was him, wasn't it? And then he goes out and, it's all a bit dull, this, isn't it? But he went quickest in warm-up. Hey?
Nice.
But that's one-upmanship, Gerhard, isn't it?
I mean, I have to say, Juan Pablo, for him, the pole position was very important because he was leaking a bit confidence. As he had some difficult races, Ralph been very strong, very close with the team because he's already several years in. So for him, results like yesterday gives him a lot of confidence, and you can see he's quiet today, and they're gonna make him stronger.
How confident are you, 1-2 in qualifying, you're going to be 1-2 in the German Grand Prix?
Well, that's always the point. In racing, in motor racing, especially in Formula 1, you never know what's happened. You know, okay, nobody can take from us the pole position here or the first row, but now the race is a new game. Michael, sure, as we know, in the race he usually is still strong. Mika, I'm going to see very strong. We're going to fight. Let's see what comes out.
Just finally, do you get the impression with Michael that he's going to be racing more for position than winning the race as he did at Silverstone?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he has a different agenda, and for him it's important to stay ahead of David and to collect some more points. It's clear. Mika gonna give everything. He's gonna really fight for it. David has to give everything, and I'm sure our 2 guys gonna do.
Okay. We always appreciate your company over here, Gerhard. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
See you soon.
Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
See you soon. Okay. Well, shall we hear from a couple of the drivers who are going to start behind the Williams front 2? Mika Hakkinen actually seems in a pretty decent mood.
Really pleased. I think big thanks for the engineers, found it in good setup since from yesterday. They found really good things for the car, and you can see it. We were definitely best Bridgestone car out there, and. I was happy, you know. I had a really good car to drive today.
The car is difficult to drive, and an aggressive driving style with a car, which is a bit wayward, is usually not a good thing. So I think I need to be cautious, play myself into the race, and see where we are. And opportunities arise, and obviously I'll be hopefully there to take them.
I'm not surprised they're up front. I'm a little bit surprised by the margin, but. All I have to do in this moment is to look what is David doing, honestly, in terms of championship. On the other side, where he is, I hope I can concentrate a little bit to the front.
Well, Gerhard Berger thinks he's going to be racing for position, perhaps not for that 51st Grand Prix victory. That is Michael Schumacher's overall record. Absolutely fantastic. And, of course, the 1999 season curtailed after the accident at Silverstone. So he's trying to match the Professor, Alain Prost. All-time record, 51 Grand Prix victories. By the way, win number 51 for the Frenchman. That was right here for Williams in '93. But Michael Schumacher has not prospered at Hockenheim. It's just 1 win in 8 starts. So then the world champion didn't get beyond the first corner last year. We still, though, saw a Ferrari triumph, and very emotional it was as well. Rubens Barrichello's first win in 124 starts.
You are watching a sensational drive being completed with Rubens Barrichello from Sao Paulo, Brazil, winning for Ferrari, and he's done it! Superb!
Rubens, when you look out on the Hockenheim circuit, does it bring back some happy memories for you?
Oh, I tell you, I mean, my first run on Friday was the lap after the last lap last year, and it was fantastic, a fantastic feeling. I mean, just to look at the numbers and to look at previous winners, you see all the big names, and I'm there.
It really was your finest hour, wasn't it?
It was the best moment of my life. I mean, it was a pity that my family wasn't here, because I wish on the podium that I could send a message to them. I think I did, because I couldn't stop crying. I had such a difficult time in between, the death of Ayrton and the times where people didn't believe on my driving, and then I had to start all over again on stewards, and I'm a Ferrari driver and I won the race the way I wanted to win. I mean, coming from the back, nobody gave me anything. I just won it. So it was such a moment.
I bet you still watch the video, don't you?
15 times, and I cannot still. I still cry. That's the most amazing thing.
When you still watch it.
I see it so many times, and I say, okay, this time I'll be okay, and then oh. When I signed for Ferrari, knowing that I would have Michael as a teammate, I couldn't be an emotional person. I had to be German, and that's the way when I put the helmet, that's the way I consider myself.
How much have you learned from Michael?
Well, a lot and zero, because how can you learn from Michael? You can learn that you're going out of the pits, he's on the limit all the time, so he has so much talent driving the car that he's on the limit, and so you learn from that. But in terms of setup, in terms of sheer speed, it's nothing to learn. We both improve the whole time. We both are on the very limit of the car in different ways.
The team is so geared around him. Do you sometimes get fed up with playing second fiddle?
I don't consider myself being a number two, but everything is around him. Sometimes the meeting just goes surrounding him, and I take my chair and I sit in there instead of saying, hey, here's Rubens. But that's how it goes with Ferrari, and that's mentally I'm getting more stronger, more, because I feel that one time is going to be my chance.
So life is quite sweet for Rubens Barrichello at the moment.
Yeah, I feel so. I mean, I'm driving the best I can, and I'm sure it's going. I'm putting my head on the pillow and I'm sleeping, so that's the most important thing.
He's keeping okay. He blubs when he watches the video. I mean, F1 has got a heart.
Oh, he has. He's a wonderful bloke, and he can go into floods of tears. You've always got to have the wet weather tyres ready for him. But, he's a super bloke. He started off the year quite aggressively, and he didn't get anywhere. He was crashing. He got into trouble with the team. He's been re-signed. He's a lot happier now. But in his heart of hearts, he knows he's number two, as you say, like on his
How does that work? He says, well, I'm not really number two, but Ferrari, whenever he does interviews, they go, there's your hat, Rubens, and by the way, it's got a big 2 on the top.
Because, he's the support driver, and if there's a problem with Michael, then he'll be in there and he'll luck into a win, as he did last year, but it was deserved.
Well, last year Barrichello won after starting 18th on the grid. He is 6th this afternoon. Hockenheim, always a compromise between the 210-mile-an-hour straights and picking your way around the stadium complex. A flying lap now with Barrichello and Martin Brundle.
Hold tight, you're about to average nearly 150 miles an hour with Barrichello onto the pit straight, tightens his seatbelt slightly, up to 180 miles an hour before turn 1. Bumpy on the way in, do not hit that curb on the right, sweep as wide as you dare through the exit and heading out into the country. Don't look wide, don't look up, don't look at those trees, pretend they're not there. You're doing over 210 miles an hour. Take a line with as little bumps as possible and choose a braking point down into that first chicane. There it is now. just 70 miles an hour through the slowest part, lean on the curbs, especially on the way out. Now, you're going to build up, 7th gear again, well over 210 miles an hour before that second chicane. Barrichello with a little green light just flashing on the dashboard to say change gear, does so finally. You're into a cul-de-sac. Look for the little curb on the right-hand side. Calm and tidy through the first part, on the throttle hard through the second and final part, over 130 miles an hour already. Sweep wide, take the nice easy line, bring the car over to the right-hand side, ready for that third chicane, over 210 again. Advertising hoardings on the right, choose a braking point, there it is now, and launch across the curbs. Anything you can find, curb, green concrete, anything to keep some forward motion going. Stay on the right-hand side, it's much, much less bumpy down there, over 200 miles an hour this time, heading towards the stadium. The first part is the Ajip curve, 4th gear, 105 miles an hour, always surprises you, the car sliding slightly wide. Now you're in the amphitheatre at the final part of the lap. Sachs curve, 160 down to just 55. Barrichello correcting the back end of the car as he applies the horsepower, short shift through the small chicane to keep the wheel spin down. Now Sud curve 1, 80 miles an hour, up to 120, back down to 80 miles an hour again. Not as fast as it looks, and then over the start-finish line now.
What a ride around the quickest circuit we have visited so far. Well, Barrichello and Martin used to be colleagues at Jordan, and their old team caused quite a stir when out of the blue, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the most successful driver ever, was dismissed in the week before his home race.
And Jordan and Heinz-Harald Frentzen win.
The happy days of '99 long forgotten. Heinz-Harald Frentzen sacked from his job just 2 days before his home Grand Prix. His replacement, the less experienced Ricardo Zonta. The news stunned the F1 world.
Clearly this season, despite the fact that there were occasions where we qualified particularly well, we were not able to maximise some of the opportunities that were presented to us. And Heinz and I had a very clear difference of opinion about many of the different things that were happening. And on that basis, I decided that I was no longer able to continue that way. If it's going to be long-term gain for Heinz or for Jordan, then it needed to be done straight away. And I think we all know that prolonging things that aren't going to work or don't seem to be able to work, or in the short term, clearly were not going to work. The only way was to finish it there and then and move on.
There's no doubt that Heinz-Harald was going through a run of poor form. He started from 5th on the grid at Silverstone, but finished down in 7th in the race, despite 2 drivers dropping out ahead of him. He was also losing the fight against teammate Jarno Trulli, the Italian out-qualifying him 9 times. The only word from Heinz-Harald himself has been this statement. In it, he says he contests the reasons given for his termination in their entirety. He continues, "My position in this matter is now under legal advice. Due to the current situation, I'm unable to make any further comment at this time." Meanwhile, at Hockenheim, he's left a load of fans with no one to cheer for. So where might he find another drive? One destination could have been Toyota, who joined Formula One next year, but that now appears to be a distant possibility. The only other option is if one of F1's midfield teams get rid of an existing driver and throw Frentzen a lifeline. As for the Jordan seat, test driver Zonta has a chance to stake his claim if he races well today, although his qualifying performance of 15th won't have helped. We may well be seeing other drivers in the number 11 Jordan before the end of the season.
So, Tony, the guessing game starts. Who's it going to be? I mean, the Lacey's just been mentioned this morning.
Well, this is the latest rumour, so I went over to check that out with the Italian press. They're definitely writing that he will fill into the end of the season. Of course, links with the Team 89 Formula 3000 champion. Does that mean that Heinz-Harald Frentzen is then going to be put in his place at the Prost? We don't know. Frentzen's somewhere here out on the circuit. Apparently he's going to jump out as a protester later on, probably in front of the Jordan
But you think
cars.
Sato, perhaps the Japanese driver, who he's got a shout?
Well, yeah, potentially he has. The long-term plan is to get some young superstar in there. Maybe move closer to Honda with Sato, but also maybe look at Alonso. Maybe some sort of swap deal because Briatore manages Alonso. This young 20-year-old is a very exciting prospect. He's another one who's in the frame apparently.
But Jordan, what a weekend they've been having. I mean, if you're a Jordan fan, you're not going to enjoy watching any of this.
No, you're not. The team are not enjoying it. They're not enjoying going in and out of the circuit. Honda not enjoying it, blowing up there for truly a problem. I mean, they used to have, and he was not given the right directions to go back to the pits and didn't make it back for the spare car for qualifying by the marshals, who was upset there. They used to have this hissing snake on the side of the car. And now the team have been here in Hockenheim running the gauntlet. There's Zonta going off. And he was only in 15th place. And a warm-up, they've been going off as well. Zonta did it again, and he's driving very tentatively. And they are being hissed at here. The crowd are hissing, they're booing, the signs are there, Jordan go home. And Eddie Jordan said, it's like, I know what it feels like now to be a football team manager when you run that sort of gauntlet of hate. But he said, I can understand it. If I was an Irishman coming to the Irish Grand Prix and they'd removed the Irish hero just before, he said, I'd be upset too.
It poses all sorts of problems, doesn't it, Hockenheim, for the cars? You've got that big straight and then this little stadium complex.
And this is Alonso, the man we're talking about, and then De La Rosa driving very carefully because he felt loose left front. You see the wheel nut just coming off there, so he saved some damage very well. But it is difficult. It is very high speed, and then you've got this infield section where you need the compromises. And then also Tarso Marquez, who went off. Now the team, Paul Stoddart and his team, have tested this Alex Young, this Malaysian, who may well replace Marquez before the end of the season. And that would be the first Malaysian in Grand Prix racing, which would also be very exciting for the sport.
Cheers, Tony. Thank you very much indeed. So Jordan very much on the back foot, but despite their problems in warm-up, Jaguar really look as though they are going places at the moment. Encouraging signs from them. They've been working very hard on the aerodynamics aspect of their car. De La Rosa 9th, Eddie Irvine 11th. That their best qualifying performance of the year.
The new aero package, which first appeared on the Jaguars at Silverstone, is paying dividends this weekend. It helped De La Rosa to record his best ever qualifying performance for the team.
I love qualifying when the car is good and you give it 100%. I've been driving quite well today. We've gone back to Eddie's setup because it was better and it's proved to be quicker.
I think you have to really give credit to the aero team, who have worked very hard all year long. You know, this is all about drag, this place, and probably at the start of the year we might have had the draggiest car out there. And we've polished on this pretty hard, and it's getting pretty, relatively good, but we have a long way to go yet, obviously, but, I'm quite pleased.
The boss might be pleased, but Eddie Irvine is frustrated and slightly confused. His race pace is getting more and more impressive as the year goes on, and he topped the timesheets here on Friday. But once again, Eddie wound up disappointed at the end of the qualifying hour.
We don't understand how we can be 2 seconds off the Williams in qualifying and then run the same pace as them in the race, or near. I don't think we'll run the same pace as them here, but we're just trying to build up a picture of what's going on, to be honest, because at the minute we're a bit confused.
Certainly every driver wants to be up front, but you know what you've got. And am I happy being 9th? No. Or should I say, am I satisfied with it? No. But do I know what it takes to get up to the front? Well, I thought we had a car that was going to get us 7th. 7th is as good as we're going to be right now. I mean, that's just the reality. Because we're not going to out-qualify Ferraris, the Williams, or the McLarens. So you got to be realistic. And Pedro was almost 7th, so I think that's pretty good.
Realistic view then from Bobby Rahal. Interesting that Eddie Irvine saying the Jaguar's the best handling car he's ever driven around here. Bearing in mind he won here for Ferrari when this fellow Michael Schumacher was recovering from his Silverstone smash a couple of years ago. We will be right back with Martin Brundle grid walking, and then there is Ross Kemp. The finished article from novice mechanic to the real thing, a pit stop at the British Grand Prix. You're back with us at Hockenheim. Real problems for the European Minardi driver, Fernando Alonso. His car on fire on the grid. Just over 20 minutes to go to the start of the German Grand Prix. And that would mean Alonso has to dash back and find another motor. And he hasn't got long. They're on the back row anyway. Well, over the last few races, We have been following Ross Kemp learning the ropes at Jordan, very much a crash course in the craft of doing the business as part of the team's pit crew at the British Grand Prix. He worked very hard at it too. We're going to join Ross at the start of his big day at Silverstone.
Average breakfast. It's a truckie's breakfast. That's what truckies eat. I'll go back to muesli tomorrow. I think I'm going to need it today.
Don't worry, just go slow, and it's easy.
Everyone's switching. Yeah. Don't panic, Mr. Manrig.
You do.
As long as I'm not in your way, Nate, that's all I'm worried about.
It's just like being down the arches, but without the aggro.
Well, I'm actually doing it, given the go-ahead. Apparently I can control something that resembles something that you'd probably clean a swimming pool with. But I'm very nervous. Everybody's very, very tense, and I know they've practiced it many, many times before. The difference between a race day and even a qualifying day like yesterday is enormous. Very interesting. It's a mixture of excitement and apprehension. And I know all the boys are really pleased that I'm actually going to be doing it. I think they're more pleased than I am. Excuse me. Give your autograph, please. The moment we've all been waiting for. I haven't been particularly, but here we go. Time to get ready. Do it now, yeah? Ready? Right. Right, that could be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're stacking up, actually, keep your wits about it.
You look really nervous.
I am. Of course I am. I achieved what I wanted to achieve as far as not hurting myself or anybody else. I've got an insight of Formula One that most people never have, and I feel very humbled by having that experience, but also chuffed to bits. And I've made some wonderful friends, and I will never view this sport in the same light again. But one thing it has done, it hasn't made me kind of like want to defer from it. It's made me want to find out more and more about it because I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Big challenge that for Ross Kemp. He won a lot of friends throughout the paddock for his attitude to be welcome back any time. Right then, we've been hearing about some of the fun and games that Juan Pablo Montoya has been playing during warm-up. Ted Kravitz has more.
There was some fascinating psychology going on in this morning's warm-up. Juan Pablo Montoya sat on the pit wall for 23 minutes of the half-hour session. The team insisted there was nothing wrong with the car. He then came out and went fastest. Ralph duly responded. Williams still the class of the field. Meanwhile at McLaren, David Coulthard was happier than yesterday, but still had some tyre wear on his soft Bridgestones. Team boss Ron Dennis takes note.
We're not blissed in the rear tyre this morning. I had a little chunk out of the left rear, but I think that was from my previous cut in qualifying. So, but the thing is, of course, those tyres have gone through a heat cycle because they ran in qualifying, and the question is going to be when I run the new tyres in the race, what will happen? So if you see a dark area on the inside left shoulder of the tyre and be looking a bit wayward, then you know we have blistering problems.
There's not much you can do with strategy at Hockenheim. It's a short race, only 45 laps, and it's a one-stopper. What is important is when you take that stop. The Michelins on the Williams are working well, and they could go up to lap 35 before they stop. As for the others, expect them in between laps 25 and 30. But do watch out for those Bridgestones on Coulthard's McLaren. If they get in trouble, I expect McLaren to bring him in early.
Thanks very much indeed, Ted. So no Heinz-Harald Frentzen then after his sudden removal from Jordan. There are both Schumachers in the race and another German as well. Nick Heidfeld, around 5'6". He's been joking around with 7'1" Los Angeles Laker Shaquille O'Neal. Heidfeld, though, a young man with a big future.
With one less German driver on the grid, even more attention has been focused on Nick Heidfeld this weekend. Sauber's baby-faced teammates have been the revelation of the season, but they still happily joined in with a group of school children celebrating the first day of the holidays.
It's a bit like a preschool outing out there today, wasn't it, all those kids?
Yeah, but normally I like to do this kind of things with children because they enjoy it so much. You see their eyes sparkling if they get a signature, and it's really fun.
Did you always want to be a Grand Prix driver?
Yeah, I think from when I started, when I was 8 or 9 years old in karting, I dreamt of being a Formula 1 driver.
Why did you get into karting in the first place then?
My father loved motor racing, and I also started with motocross when I was 5 years old. Then I stopped 2 years after because it was a bit dangerous. And then we always wanted to go to a rental kart, but I wasn't allowed to drive anywhere because I was too small. And then first time at the Nürburgring, I was allowed to drive. I had two tires in the back and just reached the pedals. Then my father told me to follow him, and he was a bit too slow, and then I overtook him. And then we tried it on some other circuit, and then after a couple of weeks we bought our own kart, and that's how it started.
Is your father still and your family still involved in your career?
Well, not so much anymore now, but definitely they were very, very important. Because if you start karting with 8 or 9 years, you need a family to support you. And, it was a hobby for him as it was a hobby for my brother and me, karting. He was a mechanic, and he did the catering and all that stuff, and he really liked that.
Do they come along to the races?
Not each race, but sometimes, yeah.
But your girlfriend comes to a lot of the races?
Yeah, also not to all of them. She wasn't there at the beginning of the year because the team didn't want it to happen.
And what was that all about?
Yeah, that was a bit strange. I mean, the media made a bit of a different story out of it. They said that we were forbidden to have sex before the race, but basically Peter just didn't want us to be disturbed for the first couple of races because it was a new team and all this stuff, but now it's fine.
How'd you get on with Kimi?
It's okay. He's a very tough competitor, but we are pushing each other. I think we have a normal kind of relationship.
What's normal?
We are not the best friends, I think, but we also don't have any problems.
You seem as though you get on quite well. You're quite relaxed in each other's company.
Yeah, it's fine. I never had big problems with any teammate so far, and I think away from the circuit it's a bit easier for both of us because we are not fighting so hard, and we can have some fun together.
Heidfeld can have some fun from the fourth row. You're going to have some fun now, Martin, from pole position.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the grid here in Germany. What do you want to know? Well, I guess you want to know, can these Williams stay ahead of the pack? I'm going to try and go over to our man Juan Pablo. Last time we went to speak to him on the grid, he blanked us completely. Let's have another try. I don't blame him because it's like, you know, stepping up to Beckham just before he's about to take a penalty and asking him for an interview. But anyway, we'll give it a try. Juan Pablo, how does it feel? Congratulations on your first Formula 1 pole. How's it feeling?
Pues Martin, estoy muy contento. Yo creo que las cosas se dieron muy bien y pues no sé. What do you think of that?
Sí, es muy bien. Gracias para todo. And in English, you know, in your own language?
No, I think it's really good. I'm really happy. The car worked really well. And, you know, we have to wait and see what happens. You know, hopefully we make a good start. We'll play from there.
All right, so what's going through your mind then right now, apart from having to talk to me, which is a nuisance? What's really in your mind? Tell the viewers.
Well, nothing much, really. Just wait and see what happens. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, what's going to happen is going to happen. You can't change it, so just get on with it.
I mean, really cool. You seem almost bored. You seem like, oh, come on, let's get rid of all this rubbish and get on with the game.
You know, it's a lot of waiting here, but I think it's going to be quite a good race. I think Ralph and myself will look very competitive, and, you know, we'll see how we compare with everybody else.
So can you race, Ralph, today? What's the team said to you? What has Frank said to you?
There's no rules or team order, anything. Just go for it, both of us.
So you got all the German crowd here sort of, you know, watching this, and you've got to beat the two Schumacher brothers, and the McLarens look reasonably strong in the warm-up.
Yeah, they look quite good, so we have to wait and see what, you know, on race field, what everybody's going to have.
You were super cool this morning. You only intended to drive 7 minutes of the warm-up, yeah?
Yeah, that's what we needed to do, and, you know, we want to save the car for the rest as much as we can.
So is there something a little bit on the limit then? Is there something that can concern you a bit?
No, you know, last race we had some problems, but we decided just to go as safe as we can. We don't really think nothing's going to happen, but, you know, more laps you save, more laps you'll do in the race.
All right, thanks for talking to us. Really appreciate your time. Let's wander along and see. There's this really enormously tall geezer I'd like to talk to. Shaquille O'Neal. Apparently, I'm hearing he's absolutely right to the back of the grid. I've got a minute or so left. I'm hearing in my headphones. So if I can find him, I will. If we trip over somebody else on the way, but I've been dying to talk to him all weekend. I haven't managed to catch up with him. He's apparently down by Eddie Irvine's car, who's quite a long way back on the grid. Let's head down there, shall we? Might as well have a little trot. Keeps us fit, doesn't it? So the big story then, Michael Schumacher only 4th on the grid. Can Ferrari make it a hat-trick? They've won here with Irvine. They won here with Barrichello last year. Amazingly not with Michael Schumacher, but he didn't look great in the warm-up this morning either. They've got to chase those Williams. I know they've all taken a lot of wing off. McLaren taken 6 kilometres per hour of wing off, trying to stay with those Williams, BMW. I'm going to get pulped if I go and interrupt this guy. Shaquille, is it possible to have a quick chat live? Yeah, well, the boss is sort of normally up for it as well.
It's ITV.
ITV, you know, like we're live here. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just here to meet the world's best racers.
Yeah, well, you've been voted MVP in the States. You're like the world champion of basketball, yeah?
Yes, I am. I won my 2nd title. I'm here today to watch the world's best racers.
Yeah, and so do you think you get paid more than these guys?
Actually, I'm not sure, but they do it for fun. I do it for fun. We all do it for fun. I'm just here to have a good time. And I talk about my new album, Shaq O'Neal Presents Super Friends, and my new book that'll be released in Germany. It's called Shaq Talks Back.
Excellent. Well, it's good to talk to you. I can't hardly reach. My arm's shaking. Bernie, are you going to have a quick word with us, or are you on a mission? What do you mean you're coming back? I'm live.
No, I've got to be my brother.
Your new best friend?
No, he's my brother. He's a part of the family.
Yeah.
Exactly a twin, but...
you were born a few hours apart, or a few months apart. But he's a big guy. It's unbelievable. I'm dying to get a shot of you and him standing side by side. Look, that's got to be the shot. That's the shot we've been looking for all weekend. That is really sweet. We're going back to the studio. Thanks for talking to us.
Great stuff, Martin. Well done. Bernie and his brother, Shaq, Juan Pablo Montoya, the pole sitter, winding him up with a spot of Spanish as well. Great stuff from Martin Brundle. Grid walking. Do not go away. The German Grand Prix is about to come to the boil.